Lucky.
Rickon.
Not so lucky.
Yara.
Up for anything.
Ramsey.
Dog food.
Sansa.
Divorced!
Hello, welcome to episode 609 for Game of Thrones. This is Fan vs. Fan. I'm Joel.
I'm Brian.
And everything was epic this week.
Woo! Woo! Woo!
He's not going to stop. So, Brian.
Woo!
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I'm actually really happy it's over. I'm exhausted.
I know.
Oh, my God.
I watched the episode just like
Clutching
my heart,
yourself?
Yeah, it was like there's like a wet spot on my shirt.
Do I still have my limbs? Because they don't have any of theirs.
Yes, no, it's nothing but goosebumps. It's just goosebumps piled on goosebumps comprising limbs. Hello, that was
something.
That was something
spectacular.
That was something pretty spectacular.
Holy buttons! Yeah.
Holy buttons! I think both of our pros, the big.
The big crazy battle. It was fantastic.
But then there's lots of like little things to talk about within the battle.
Sub battles.
There's sub battles.
Battle within battles. Battles under battles. Battles within people within battles.
That's true. Very very accurate. Which was your favorite battle of all those different types of battles?
The best part, I thought, inarguably. So once I stop explaining this part, you won't say anything else afterwards because there's no point in arguing it. Was immediately after Jon runs in. And he takes his belt off, and the Bolton cavalry starts coming at him, and it's like, he's gonna die, and all of a sudden his cavalry smashes into them from behind. That whole horse battle chunk, sort of one shot that went on for minutes, and there were all these beautiful, tense moments where,
he's about to be ridden down.
He's wandering around. He's like in shock. He's about to be ridden down, and some other horse comes out from nowhere like a train and creams a dude or creams another horse. There were so many of those.
The arrows come in and he ducks, and like 8 people die.
Some other guy runs in off the frame and gets it in the face rather than him. It was just like one after the other. Like, oh, I think he's gonna die. I think he's gonna die. I think he's gonna die.
Or at the very least, just the choreography. Like the longer you watch it, the more in awe you are that this is still going. That it's still focused on him. That all the stuff is going on, and in the background you can still see all the people flailing and wailing, and just the horses really have it bad in the fantasy world. They're the noblest beasts, and they ride everyone into battle, and they're so beautiful, and then they just get
creamed.
It's just like squished together, and there's there's so much glue now coming out of Winterfell. It's horrible.
Really, when I was watching that scene, for a moment in there, I started thinking, like, have I thought the rest of the season was cheap? I don't remember thinking the rest of the season was cheap. But how did they afford this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was. I don't think I have any complaints about that. About that particular chunk of it. It's the most visually startling and most amazingly choreographed. However long that was, 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the whole season. And
shortly after that, you have the awesome scene where the spearmen with the gigantic shields make this arcing ring around where they're all fighting.
Yeah.
And they do the stamp, right? Right?
Yeah.
And they're moving forward, and it's just a slow pincer crush. And you're thinking, okay, the giant has to punch some people out of the way, which was happening, but the pole arms are so long that he kind of can't really go anywhere without getting prodded by another few, right? And he's actually rendered vaguely ineffectual for a bit. And they're surrounded, and you're like, they have to punch through somehow. But there's shields beyond the other shields, right? It's like these are walls where it's like there's people like pushing the people to hold them in place, right?
I think there was
even like Tormund like dives into them, they don't go anywhere.
There's nowhere to go,
right? There's nowhere to go. The press is so strong.
It was like a Roman legion. It's like that old tactic. They've got shields in the front and shields on the top, and they just march like a turtle. And
it's like a phalanx of hoplites, but actually they're just a bunch of Bolton people who skin people.
You had all the right words there. You're like a teacher or something. Yeah. So was there a particular part of the battle that you liked aside from the horse battle? Well,
I mean, you can't help but cheer. I mean, there's so little to cheer about on Game of Thrones, for real. So much of it. I know so many people who I've talked to who are like, I'm sure it's a great show. I can't handle how sad it's going to make me. Like, they know, they've heard, right? They're like, I don't want to start something that's going to press me down into the mud this much. But everyone who's started, who's been following it, we're in for the long haul. And you're like, darn you, now I'm stuck in the earth. Right? But it was great because you got moments of redemption, moments of justice. right? With big capital fat J. And we just had it with Arya, and it's kind of done. Mm-hmm. And then here you have it done right? We've got the soldiers of the Vale marching through, and like just even the banner when you're like, yeah, right? And this great shot. I love the shot of Sansa on the top of the hill, and Littlefinger's there too, right? Looking smug and thinking, and it just goes right past him.
Yeah.
Right? Because she is...
It's not about him.
She has orchestrated this, right? And she still didn't tell Jon. Right? At the last minute. And it's interesting as to whether that'll come up, because she could have said, psst, there's all these soldiers of the Vale on the other side, but who knows? Maybe he would have given something away. Right? She knows how dangerous Ramsay is.
I thought of that as well when they come in. And, of course, the battle's going terribly, but you imagine somehow they have to win it. Yeah. I'm thinking, like, what force is going to show up? It's either the Vale or somehow, I don't know.
It's got to be the Vale.
I thought, like, in some other universe it would be the Blackfish. He would have changed his mind or something.
Well, he's dead, so it's probably not.
So not, yeah. Well, when he died, I thought in the previous episode, now they can go because he was the one that. That's
true. It could be under Edmure and Jaime.
Yeah, I mean, they would have been weird, but anyway, they show up, and that was my thought. Like, why wouldn't you have told Jon? I mean, I understand why she wouldn't have told Jon, because she, as Littlefinger mentioned to her, it's like you sort of need your own support. Yeah. You can't rely on anybody else. And maybe she didn't 100% know they were going to show up. I don't know. But I would be surprised if Jon wasn't pissed off.
You know what? Something that can't be forgotten either, when we're talking about pros in that episode, was the scenes before the battle. They're very small compared to the big spectacle of the final half an hour of that. But the scene with Melisandre, the scene with Sansa and Jon shouting at each other, these are very much War Council scenes like season 2 and 3. They have a lot of purpose. They have a lot of suspense and drama to them in their own way, right? And that kind of quiet calm before the battle. And I thought that they set that up really well.
I really like that Melisandre scene. I've really enjoyed, actually, any scene that Melisandre has been in this season. Mm-hmm. That previously, in previous seasons, she's been so confident because she's so dogmatic. Yeah. She has so much faith that the Lord of Light is providing her the direction she needs to go in. And her faith has been shaken. She hasn't given up. But in that scene, she says something like I don't have any power.
Yeah, she's like, I look at things, I guess.
I guess. I look at signs, and she might have expressed things like that before. She might have expressed things in the sense of, it's like, well, let's look at the signs. But she would have said it more confidently, like, he's sending us signs, we just have to listen. And now she's saying...
There's something for the actors, too, right?
I don't know.
Is that it gives her something to feed on, because you really see that she can do more than just haughty... or like high and important and naked. She can actually, she has like this vulnerable, broken side.
Really like that vulnerability.
Same thing with Ramsay Bolton, where you finally see him have fear.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, oh, he's not just, he's still had his words are still pouring out, but his eyes are showing the dread. And that great way to end it.
So great action and great emotion. Some great drama as well.
So much blood. Holy God.
Well, Joel, there's no point in watching serial TV without complaining about it. So, even though we really enjoyed it, what did you not like?
Well, there's always little bits. There's always little tiny bits, right? Nothing's ever perfectly perfect. We got to talk about the parts of Marine. In any other episode, that would have been like the
whole episode. Yeah,
yeah. There would have been the really big CGI stunt at the end. They're like, no, we're gonna tuck that into the middle of this one. Everything with the dragon burning ships, not going to complain about that. They're like hovering there, just like, yeah.
Those guys are way dead. They're still killing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So that part, cool. The only thing about it that bothered me was you had a bunch of kind of really important scenes.
Yes.
That they really like wedged for time, and it makes you wonder whether they could have worked that one up into the previous episode. And my ongoing complaint with the Arya scene, that they should have finished Arya's story in episode 7. They could have had this happen at the end of episode 8, right? Like all of that footage. And you still need stuff happening. Maybe the aftermath stuff with the Greyjoys could have been drawn out a little more.
They did a lot.
But they did a lot. Like
the first scene is she has to come back, feel like maybe Tyrion messed up a little bit.
Yeah, she just explained
Tyrion has to like prove himself, and she has to recommit to taking on the Masters. They have to be engaged and defeated.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they are the surrender scene has to happen.
Foolishly.
Then the Greyjoys have to show up, and they have to negotiate a truce. Yeah. Like, I feel like in any episode, you could have done any one of those things, and that would have been the whole episode.
Right. Yeah, and so I just found they were clipped a little short. Like it cuts to Tyrion talking, and you're like Theon and Yara are just there. And like you could like they don't have establishing shots anymore. We're doing some really good shots of them on their boats coming to Marine, looking at this temple pyramid with it doesn't have a sphinx on it anymore really, but you'd be like, whoa, like check that out.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
like, looking a little impressed.
It's sort of under siege in the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, like moments later, they just went through like
but there's like they were attacked in the previous episode.
That's true. So they had to go through a lot of
what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah,
there could have been
right. There could have been a lot more like establishing shots with that. Even like getting the Masters up to that point. It's like they teleport and they've like landed miles away from the city, and it's like it's still going on in the background, right? She's like, "You guys keep fighting. I'm going to go talk to the Masters over there." It's like, that would take hours. Yes. You know how many people died in the time it took for the Masters to, like, land and climb to the top of this, like, hill near Marine, where, like, it's just getting blown
Well, I thought of it right off the bat.
City.
Like, the very first episode takes place in the daytime, and in the last episode ended with her arriving in the middle of the night. So this city's been being bombarded by cannonballs for 12 hours.
And it's like, are they getting out of their ships? Like, I mean, the Sons of the Harpy rose up. We saw that with the Dario scene where the Dothraki charge into the city. Yeah. Another scene could have had more time. Could have showed them riding into the
10
city.
10 seconds of that.
Yeah, they were like riding in at the one.
The entire Dothraki. We saw the entire Dothraki horde kill one guy.
Pretty much.
One guy.
Yeah. And so like a lot of those scenes felt just like pressed in, and it kept the tempo of the episode really well because we got war going on everywhere. So it's really action packed. The dragon scenes were great. Everything like that is cool. It's great to see the other two dragons out in action as well, not just Drogon doing everything. So parts of it were good, but some of the pacing, I would have liked to see. They set up everything in Winterfell. Then they do a lot of that Marine stuff in like one kind of chunk, and then they go back to Winterfell for the ending. Yeah. Instead of kind of trying to like weave it and then have the big ending, because it just seemed like every time they came back, they teleported through time so fast in Marine.
In its defense, and you feel free to disagree entirely, but in its defense, it did a lot of things, and I wasn't lost.
No.
I could follow it. I wasn't like really disappointed by it. I agree that it would be nice if they had built some of this stuff out, but there wasn't a point where I thought, like, what the hell was that?
It's more of a season pacing than an episode pacing problem. It's like they could have had some of that night stuff with Tyrion happen at like an episode earlier or what have you, right? And they've chunked it back to have more finale. I don't want more finale. I want each episode to have its own punch. The earlier seasons weren't quite that. Like they weren't bent around just having this huge press of everything happening in episodes 9 and 10. You had great stuff happening in episode 6 and episode 4 and episode 2, like Joffrey dying, right? So elements of that, but I still got to give it to Grey Worm for chopping two people's throats with one swipe, because it was great.
Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't do it anymore.
What else did you not like? Because I've covered my end.
So as much as I really loved the battle and the horse battle, which is the first battle of the battle, the first sub battle of the battle,
of the many battles,
the chunk leading into that, I wish was quite different.
Right. You're talking about with Jon and Rickon in the game.
Yeah, the game. Like, this is the challenge of like talking about this show, is that it's so nuanced. Like, my complaints are so nuanced. Yeah, you know, it's like I want like 3 minutes and 25 seconds. I want there to 3 minutes and 30 seconds to be cut out, and I would be perfectly happy with everything.
Perfect, you know? Flawless.
So yeah, well, I mean, the game itself, cool idea, and Ramsay is a psychopath, so great.
Yeah. I was expecting dogs.
Sure.
I was expecting the dogs. It was like from Snatch or something.
What I didn't like is that not a minute earlier, Sansa warned him. Of course, she didn't warn about anything specific. But she said, like, he's going to find a way to get in your head. Yeah. He's going to find a way to get you to do something that you are not going to want to do.
She said he plays with people.
That's right? And then Ramsay's opening move is this total head fuck. Did we say that word on the show? We do now. And Jon, like, doesn't think about it at all. He doesn't give it a moment even. Yeah. And he just a total idiot about it.
And you're kind of
that's what I don't like.
And I mean, I saw that. I'm like, that's the Eddard Stark in him, right? Where he's like honor first before being quite on his head all the time. He couldn't live with himself if he didn't do it. But I'm also kind of like, Wouldn't if you were just one of the soldiers, wouldn't you be like, hey, Lord Snow, don't worry, I got this. And you're like, I'll ride out and do it. Because nobody gives a crap if they shoot me down. Right. You can sit there and like guard the thing. I'll ride really fast. Promise I'll save your brother. Right? Like, or I have just as good a chance as you do.
Right.
Right?
No, I get it. I get all the honor thing. I mean, Jon is one of the more honorable characters, and there's a lot of things he did in this episode, specifically because he's an honorable man.
Yeah, like punch a guy 28 times in the head.
Right? Or like even at the end when he was approaching Ramsay with the shield, and Ramsay you're firing arrows at him, just get one of the other guys to kill him. He could easily take Jon down.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary, but in a world built on honor, I get why those choices are made.
Right.
I'm not upset with Jon being honorable or making honorable choices. It's like cutting out the little bits that bug you and making it all okay. I think it's really about that Sansa scene. Had that scene not happened, it wouldn't have bothered me as much.
But that scene's so good.
But he was so immediately... Again, yeah, that scene itself was so good. But that scene immediately warns him, says to him, do not do this thing. Cut to him doing the thing.
Yeah. Well, my thing with Jon was he definitely had this kind of, plot armor going on where there's all these arrows in the air and it's like, whoa, they all missed. Whew, that was close.
There was literally a ring of arrows that landed around him in one shot, like in a circle.
Yeah, it made a heart. It was like a Valentine. Yeah. But like then it happens like again. It happens again. You have that whole scene. He's surviving. And I know, right? Like we have to know. You have to suspend your belief because without that, you don't have an episode. Jon just doesn't die in the middle of the battle.
We can't kill him now.
Everyone would complain way more. Awful. And nobody's going to do that. So what can you do, right? But the thing
There was a moment where I thought maybe they were going to really kill him.
When he's suffocating? Because that scene was super cool.
When they were suffocating. There was another moment before that. I think he was just like in the fray.
just some random guy you thought was going to get him.
Well, he was just like messed up. He looked like he had like PTSD and he couldn't handle it anymore. And I thought like they might actually do it. I'm going to be so mad.
That was one of the things, right? He did so many things and got away with it in that episode, right? Because that part that you said with the arrows coming down, but then at the end holding up the shield, going after Ramsay on his own, and Ramsay suffered a little bit from like Darth Maul syndrome, which is like he's been so good at being this really tough, hard-nosed fighter, and then he's like reloading his bow when Jon's a meter away from him. This is a guy who fought with 2 knives in a dungeon while like shirtless and covered in blood against Yara and the Ironborn. He knows how to skirmish. We've seen him do it numerous times. He's not going to be fumbling for an arrow like, oh my god, he's coming. I've already shot 4 of them. They all hit the gigantic shield he has. Like after 2 shots of that at most, he's chucking that away and whipping his sword out. Now maybe they're going to shoot arrows at him. He'd still do it. Yeah, that's what Ramsay would do. Or he'd like turn and run away and try to get Jon later.
Or he's got another knife on him.
But he's got knives. Like, what is he trying to load that, right? And the point, it's like puffing Jon up, right? It's like he does this heroic rescue. He barely survives. Now he like, he boof, 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 and he goes up and he punches the guy to death almost, right? And it's very much it's part of that justice we talked about earlier, right? But it does give Jon a little too much of this compared to all the other people involved who don't have their moments in the sun, except for Tormund, which is pretty awesome.
I mean, that's the weird thing about Jon now, is that up until Jon coming back to life, the audience truly believed that anyone could die at any time.
Yeah.
And now, like, you can't kill Jon now. Yeah,
he can't kill him
now. I know he's not going to die now.
Right? Well, Melisandre says that. She's like, you might die tomorrow. And it's just kind of like, well, we'll see about that. Yeah. And you're right. They're very much, in the end, that episode had all of that carnage. And we lost Ramsay and the giant, who is basically an incredibly expensive like means to an end, right? You put the giants in to 1, be awesome, 2, break things, and 3, be awesome. So once they've done that role, and of course this time would be like Wun-Wun, I guess his name is, did a great job at doing that. And then, he's almost dying, and Ramsay gets his one last thing in. Ramsay probably should have shot Jon with that arrow.
But he could have shot Jon on the battlefield when he was shooting at Rickon.
He could have, but he left it to the archers. But he also was supremely confident that Jon was going to be dead in a circle of spearmen as well. At this last point, when you've got nothing left to lose, he's like, all right, I've got 8 soldiers. I've got 5 arrows. There's the man who defeated me, who I hate. What? This giant's here, and he punched down my door? Die! Right? Like, why not just shoot Jon? Jon's not even looking, right? He's like petting the giant's head or something.
It's true.
Right? He was like reaching up to do this like sad like caress of his. Oh man, that's rough.
Joel, those are all our thoughts on this week's episode. But, Bookmaster, what do you think is going to happen in next week's episode?
Because I know so much, having read the Phantom book that doesn't yet exist. We got to go to King's Landing now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we've done the Siege of River Run. We've now done the Battle of the Bastards. That's so fittingly called on Father's Day. And Marine seems really figured out. She's got her boats. She's got her dragons.
She just has to come over to Westeros.
She's got some Greyjoys partying down.
Yeah.
She's got to come to Westeros. So that part everything seems pretty set. The only storyline that we're missing out on is basically they got to do something with the Hound. I would imagine they can't just introduce them and do nothing. Maybe they can.
Right.
But we have to go to King's Landing and figure out everything's happening with the Highgarden and the Lannisters and whatnot. And particularly, a thing I thought was really interesting was when Dany is intimidating Tyrion with her glares and he's stumbling for like the first time ever, which I thought was a little out of character. They're talking about the premise that her father went crazy and burned down, or was going to burn down, an entire city. Innocent people, the invading army and innocent people alike.
Did you feel like that was a little bit of foreshadowing?
Maybe. This is a thing. We've got Qyburn whispering in Cersei's ear saying, "My little birds have picked up on this secret," and there's more of it than we could imagine. And a lot of the kind of general opinion of myself, at least, is that it has to do with wildfire. If you remember from season 2, where they've got these casks of this bright green very incendiary, kind of magic, almost flame stuff. Well, flames. And they have it cached around the city in various places. So in the same way that Aegon the Mad had it cached. And the people think that there's foreshadowing in a couple ways. One, in that is not the way to win. Dany came in wanting blood for what they were doing to her city when they left. And even though Tyrion had made this kind of mistake in trusting them and not knowing their ways, he cautioned he cautioned caution, right? And he was like, you don't just go after them and burn everything down, right? Scorched earth policy leaves everyone with nothing. It's not going to help your cause.
Right.
So what did they do? They didn't blow up all the ships.
Yep.
They just burned a few and said, that could be you. Yeah, and the rest of the soldiers are like, okay. And they killed 2 of the 3 masters, right? Grey Worm, awesome. So what have you, right? So she learns this lesson. This might be the key lesson. This might be what ruling is about, as opposed to conquering.
Do you think we're going to see Dany again next week?
No, what I think is that we might see this lesson coming full circle on Cersei, because she's kind of going crazy.
The other side of this argument.
Yeah, well, it's a parallel. It's a foil, right? Yeah. And we have it might involve Jaime again, which is the most interesting part, is because
his job is done.
King. His job is done.
Yeah.
He killed the Mad King.
Yeah.
She said, where does he want to be? He wants to be by Cersei's side.
He does.
And the idea of, if she is going to, in some way, if things go bad for her, and nobody's given Tommen too long a lifespan at this point, that if she goes for the casks of wildfire, what choice will Jaime make again a second time? Which is really rough.
Oh, Joel.
Yeah, I know. There used to be so much love in that family.
Not enough of certain kinds of love, too much of other kinds of love.
Yes. Anyway, so that's kind of where I see it going. I think they could really knock the episode out of the park if they spend a lot of time with the Faith Militant, with the Marjorie and Loras. We got to figure out that, Marjorie's scheme has to come to light, I would hope, and the Lannisters have to figure something out. Things have to change. Things have to change in King's Landing. I imagine that's where the final episode's going to be, and I think it's going to be great. I think they've got a lot to work with.
As a final point, I'd love to see Arya get thrown into the mix in some meaningful way. I mean, maybe we won't, because it sort of seems like her story is ended in a sense. I mean, she has to come back home.
Yeah.
We have to set up where these characters are going to be, and I feel like we haven't for her. So it'd be really nice if we get like a little something, some little crumb of like, Arya over the next season is going to be this wandering assassin or whatever. Like, point her in a direction. Yeah. So something I can root for.
We'll see. I think there's 2 seasons left, and either she comes back right away and she joins in, or she spends a season doing something, like wandering again, traveling, or just taking the time. She said she was going to go the other direction. So we'll see. But she's definitely going to be back for the final season for sure.
Yeah.
Right? And show up as a little hidden killer for all the friendly Starks who are still alive. All 2 of them. 3 of them. 3 of them. Yeah. Can't forget Bran. He'll be doing stuff too.
Yeah.
He'll be doing stuff too. And that's our prediction for season 6, episode 10. Bran, he'll be doing stuff too.
All the characters doing stuff.
No, just Bran. So that's it for this week. We survived, which is not the smallest feat. And it's over. We got 1 more episode left. This is Fan versus Fan for Game of Thrones, episode 609. Signing off, I am Joel Minty.
And I'm Brian Crosby.
And if you loved everything that we've been doing this entire season, then what you should really do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, because then you get everything fed right to you.
And if you would like to communicate with us about the show, you can follow the Dork Shelf Twitter account at Dork Shelf. You can click around here. And if you want to message us during the show, then we'll say things to you, or when the show's not on, and we'll also say things to you. The internet is on 24 hours a day.
That's right. We always like to comment on YouTube as well. So check it out, and we'll see you next week for the finale.
Bye. Woo! Woo! Woo!
Yeah, okay, I'm done.
Kicked him out.